this. He alleviated some of our concerns, and we appreciate that. And so, Mr. Chairman, if Mr. Adams is ready to make a motion.
Okay.
Unless anybody has any other
Okay.
question.
And you got
Commissioner.
18 months, Glenn.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery.
I got 18 minutes.
We heard your voice before. We didn't get to see your face.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the updated resolution authorizing reallocation of the county's qualified energy conservation bond allotment amount of $1,199,996 to the state, and request the state to transfer such Cumberland QECB allocation to the authority to be used in its green community program to finance the qualifying project located in the region, and that as a condition of this transfer of the Cumberland QECB allocation to the state, the Cumberland QECB allocation will be reallocated back to the county in the event that is not used by the authority in this green community program for the qualifying project located, it says in the region, but we said Duplin County. So instead of the region, I would substitute Duplin County. And that the officers of the county are hereby authorized and directed to take such action and file such reports and notices as may be required to carry out this resolution. Is that consistent?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And I second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Unanimous.
Item number 5 is consideration of a joint resolution between Cumberland County and the City of Fayetteville in support of a consolidated 911 communication center. And I'd like to recognize Mr. Tracy Jackson.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Staff has before you tonight a resolution of support for a consolidated 911 center. So this would be an effort between Cumberland County and the City of Fayetteville to explore the possibilities and potentials for developing a plan going forward for a 911 center. Joining me tonight also is Randy Beeman, and we've worked with the consultants and with the city staff, and this has been vetted by our committee and also gone to the joint city-county liaison group and is brought before you tonight at their request so that we can consider moving forward in our next steps in terms of working with the city on this project.
Okay, board?
Okay. Is Jimmy
Mr.
making?
Keefe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion that we approve this joint resolution between Cumberland County and the City of Fayetteville in support of a consolidated 911 communication center.
A second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, we'll move down to item number 7 because there are no nominations for this board meeting. So item 7 is appointments to boards and committees.
Mr. Chairman, to the ABC Board, there are 2 vacancies and 2 nominations. Mr. Bob Lewis for reappointment and Ms. Frances Jackson for appointment. I would move that those names be accepted.
Okay. Moved and seconded for acclamation. Any discussion? All in favor?
Unanimous.
For the Fayetteville Technical Community College Board of Trustees,
It's okay, I just didn't turn this light on.
there's 1 vacancy and 1 nominee, Mr. Charles Harrell. I would move that Mr. Harrell be appointed to the Fayetteville Technical Community College Board of Trustees.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Appointment of Mr. Harrell. Discussion? All in favor?
Unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, to the Joint Senior Citizens Advisory Commission, there is 1 vacancy and 1 nominee, Ms. Megan Honaker. I would move that she be appointed to the Joint Senior Citizens Advisory Commission.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay. This time, item C, there are 3 nominees for 2 vacancies on the Joint Planning Board. So we will take those nominees in the order that are presented, and top vote getters will join the board.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yes.
could, I just had 1 comment.
Sure.
And I know that, and I tried, Mr. Keefe was the one who nominated Laura Epler, so I had just tried to call him earlier today to see.
Mhm.
And I saw that on one of our hearings today, which was contested, that she act as an agent for one of the owners, and it seems as though, I don't know if the company she works for, which is Larry King and Associates, I think it was case P1624, I just have a problem, that she's gonna serve as a board member, step down. I know she will recuse herself, she probably does, and then go back onto the board to be able to vote on other properties. So that would be my only concern. I just raised that, just so for everybody's, consideration when we do the vote.
Okay, anything else before we vote? Yes,
I'm sorry.
counsel.
I'm trying to recall whether or not we had any kind of severe conflict over the years with that. That has happened before, and we always look at it, but I haven't seen it occur. I take your comments under advisement. I thought that this case and then her having that case was there for a reason. But she does some excellent work for us in the past and brings a level of expertise. I don't know.
Okay, y'all ready to vote? Okay, Candace, get ready to count these votes, please. Okay, all for Dr. Vicki Andrews, please, for reappointment.
Voting for Dr. Vicki Andrews, Commissioners Keefe, Edge, Adams, Chairman Faircloth, Commissioners Council, Lancaster, and Evans. That's unanimous.
Okay, all for Lori Epler.
Voting for Lori Epler, Commissioners Keefe, Edge, Chairman Faircloth, Commissioners Council, Lancaster, and Evans. That's 6.
And Paul Johnson.
Voting for Paul Johnson, Commissioner Glenn Adams.
Okay, so the appointees will be Vicki Andrews and Lori Epler. Congratulations. Okay, at this time, I'm going to recess the Cumberland County Commissioners meeting, and we will move to the Grays Creek Water and Sewer District Governing Board, and I'll convene that meeting this time, and please turn in your agenda packet to the, if you can find it, it's there.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the consent agenda.
Did you open the meeting?
Second.
Yeah, I did.
Second.
Moved and seconded for the consent agenda. Discussion. All in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay, I will adjourn the meeting of the Grays Creek Water and Sewer District Governing Board.
Recess.
I'll reconvene the regular Board of Commissioners meeting.
Huh?
And then I've got recessing again. Okay. So let me do this. I'm just reading what I've been told. All right, what I'm gonna do now is, okay, I'm going to convene the Norcrest Water and Sewer District Governing Board.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. Do I hear a motion on the Norcrest?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved to approve the consent agenda for the Norcrest Board. Any discussion? All in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay. Adjourn that meeting. Now I'm gonna open the Board of Directors of the Overhills Park Water and Sewer District Governing Board.
Move to approve.
Okay?
Second.
It's moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda of the Overhills Park Water Sewer District Governing Board.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before you take that vote, if I could, I realize this is the consent agenda, but if I could I ask Mr. Brown to come to the podium specifically about item C? We received bids last Friday morning, and I think it's an appropriate time to give you a project update because the bids came in higher than what we were granted with the loan and the grant amount. So
With that said, do you want to pull this off the consent agenda?
if I could, sir, please.
Okay, let's just, who made that motion?
I did.
You withdraw that motion, please? Okay, withdraw your second, please.
Yes.
Okay, and there's no motion on the floor at this time. Ms. Cannon?
Yes, sir. Item A and B would remain on the consent agenda. Would you like to vote on those first?
Okay, Larry, go ahead.
Move to approve items A and B.
Second.
Moved and seconded. In discussion? All in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
let's discuss item C.
Yes, sir. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, just want to take the opportunity to give you an update. We had a bid opening last Friday, which was the re-advertisement of the bid, because it's a formal bid process, and you have to, if it's anything over $500,000, formal bid protocol requires you to have 3 bids before you can open a bid. So when we first initially had the bid opening, we did not get but 2 bids, so we had to re-advertise. And so Friday, we received 2 bids again. The lowest bid is approximately $1.5 million more than what we had anticipated. And reason being for those overruns and having conversation with the contractors that submitted their bids was there's several issues. One is that the sewer line that we're having to install is approximately 20 foot deep in some areas. And in doing so, NCDOT requires you to have positive shoring against the roadway as well as also against the property trench. So you got the trench positive shoring on both sides, which is extremely expensive. The other concern that is raised by the contractors is the fact that the NCDOT, as far as their resurfacing requirements, if we go into the roadway, if we damage asphalt, then, what we've got to do to put it back. They're requiring, their stipulation of requirements is adding quite a bit of cost to the project as well. And one of the other final things is, if you'll remember, there is a water system out there that is privately owned by Wellens Corporation. It is a majority asbestos cement water line. And that construction and AC water line doesn't go hand in hand. So obviously there's a huge concern. So if there's a water line break due to construction, then that's going to be on the back of the contractors to repair. So we're having to cross water lines with sewer pipes in certain locations, and also just being in close proximity to that type of water line provides some discomfort or uneasiness to the contractors, because that responsibility and that cost of repairing that line, if it's damaged during construction, will be on the onus of those contractors. So to give you an update, we have been in conversations several times on Friday as well as throughout today, and talking with USDA. As you may recall, we got 75% grant funding for this project and then a 25% loan amount. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think our loan amount was projected to be around $819,000 as far as what we were going to have to borrow, and then we were going to put an availability fee as far as debt service for those customers out there, whether they connected or not, similar to what we've done in the past. That goes to pay our debt service. What we're looking at now is talking with USDA and to see if we can get additional funding from USDA to cover the overrun as far as the exceeded price than what we anticipated. It does appear that that's not going to be much of an issue. The only thing that we're not sure of at this point in time is how much of that money will be grant funding, if any, versus loan amount. And so our concern, if we don't get any grant funding as far as this additional funding needed to move forward with this project, then that might put, far as the availability fee as well as the sewer cost, that the ones that won't connect will put a sewer rate that may not be feasible for the citizens in that area. So there's yet to more to come on that, so to speak. So we're going through the proper steps to provide the information, requesting additional funding that USDA has asked us to do, and we're working with our consulting engineer to get that information to them. So that kind of gives you an update. Now, Amy, if you have anything to add, if I've missed anything, or I'll answer any questions that commissioners may have.
Okay, I've got 2 commissioners, but first thing I want to ask is, how does that impact this resolution? Is this resolution still good, or
We still want to move forward with the resolution this
Okay.
evening in the hopes that we can work out the project funding. Our plan is to still go to the August 2nd, I believe, local government commission meeting. And in order to stay on track with that date, we need to
need the
approve this
resolution, okay.
resolution. And then, I'll go ahead and mention this, if I may, Mr. Chairman. If we can identify the funding and identify funding that we believe will make the project affordable for the Overhills residents, and we're committed to trying to make this project work for those citizens, we would need to have a special meeting in the month of July for the board to approve an amended letter of commitment from USDA. Today, I can't tell you what date we would need it. We've identified either July 11th or 12th or the 18th and 19th, but it all depends on USDA's ability to get all the engineering information back, to meet with their board, and to finish the letter of commitment. So I believe I've appropriately laid out those steps, unless the finance director would like to correct me.
Okay, I have Commissioner Adams and then Commissioner Keefe.
And I just got a couple of questions, I guess. You said this is 1.5 million over what was budgeted?
Well, as far as what was funding that we had
Yeah.
received, yes, sir.
So it's, and I guess part of the problem I have, and I guess is when I was listening to you, so I can make sure that I understand this, is that part of it is the pipe that's in the ground for Wellens with the water.
Yes, sir.
And that if the contractor damages that, he has to repair that.
Yes, sir.
He has some uneasiness about that, I guess.
Yes, sir.
So he's gonna charge me on the front end for that uneasiness. I guess is that, he's put that into his bid. I mean, I'm trying to figure out, when you said that he has some uneasiness and he's worried about that, so is that into the bid so that the bid is him with some contingencies if he damages, so I'm paying for it, or we're paying for it up front, the county, as opposed to what he's doing, what he's actually doing?
That's a very good point, and that's some discussions we're actually having with the engineer too, to see if we can, basically, there is no contingency line item in the contract as it states right now. So if we could develop a contingency line like you're talking about, to say, this is the amount of money that we anticipate you having to spend, or the county anticipates you having to spend additional money to make waterline repairs, and then that's a set amount, and it's not an unknown.
But I'm trying to figure out why we should pay for that. I mean, we did a bid. We told them what we wanted them to do, and I guess they can go out there and look at it. And so you bid on the bid, and not for me to do some contingency of something that you may do, your guy may be negligent or whatever, and then we have to pick up that cost. I'm kind of lost
I'll
in that.
explain that as best I can.
I know.
As far as the contingency standpoint, there's two ways of doing it. In things that you anticipate having to make repairs on, or some things you're not sure about cost, sometimes you put a contingency in a contract. There is no contingency in this contract. It's just basically, they went out there, and they bid it based on what they feel like they're going to have to pay for any repairs. The repairs are going to have to be made because the water line, is not going to have any problems unless we're doing the construction. So our project is leading to the potential damages or potential breaks or things that we would have to repair or fix, because of sewer line installation.
But I mean, the county's not breaking those. I mean, I'm bidding you to go in and put in a sewer pipe for me. And I guess it's sort of like if you're building a house for me and you knock over one of my trees and damage my neighbor's house, I shouldn't have to pay for that, because you're the one that knocked over the tree. So I'm trying to figure out, if I'm asking you to put a pipe in to run this sewer and you damage something else in between, why should the county have to pay for that?
Well, just make sure we were clear, it's not intentional damages, it's an unavoidable relocations or impacts to the water line because of the sewer project that's already there. So the water line is already there. So you can't dig down beside of an AC water line without expecting to have some kind of repair to that water line. I mean, that's construction practice based on the type of pipe that is there and the type of construction that we're doing. Because, that utility is already existing within the DOT right-of-way. So they have an encroachment for their utility. We also have an encroachment for ours. But, with the understanding that, if we're doing something, installing sewer line, and we cause damages to an existing utility, then, the contractor's gonna be responsible for that. And, us being the county, since it's our project, we're going, he's not going to make those repairs without any, charging that back to the county, because that's unavoidable utility conflicts that you're gonna have to deal with during construction.
Jimmy?
Jeffrey, did I understand this right, that we had a bid out, we opened the bids, and then we felt like we had to go back and get 3 bids?
No, general statute requires an informal bid process. If your project is estimated to be a value of over $500,000, if you have to get 3 bids in order to open bids. We only received 2 bids at the bid opening, the initial bid opening. Therefore, we could not open those bids.
So the bids were never opened?
They were never opened, that's right. We give them back to the contractor, says we can't open. So they took them back. The same 2 contractors responded, like, again, I don't know if they adjusted their prices or they kept their prices. We don't know that.
Well, that's where I was going with
Yeah,
that.
we
I want to make sure the initial bids were not public.
They were not public. They were not even open.
Okay.
By general statute, we can't open.
I guess the other thing, and I'm going to follow a little bit on Commissioner Adams, is I'm concerned that we could almost be on the hook for another $1.5 million if no grants come through on this, but we could possibly be on the hook for this to do the same project that we had only anticipated $819,000. Is that correct?
That is correct. And then, one thing to keep in mind, we felt like the bids may come in a little higher than what we had anticipated because the estimate was nearly 2 years old. But at the same time, we did not anticipate this significant amount of money difference-wise.
Jeffrey, isn't it more not so much the amount of money, it's who's responsible for their portion of the money now? Because if we would have come out at the beginning, USDA would have normally taken that. They didn't have a cap on what they were willing to do. They had a cap by percentage-wise, not by number-wise, correct?
There was no cap, to answer your question, but at the same time, they look at other construction process to see what's in line. And just so to educate the board a little further, this has been an ongoing issue in this area as far as construction projects. PwC is having an extremely difficult time in getting people to bid their work as well. And I think part of it is, due to the complexity of the work when you're talking about installation or retrofitting existing subdivisions for sewer. And the other portion of that is, I think, as far as their work, there's more work now than there was 2-3 years ago. And so obviously, contractors are hesitant to bid on very difficult projects where you had, multiple contractors, you have a bid open, you may have 5 or 6 people bid the project. Now we're bidding projects and PwC is having the same difficulty we are, is that, you do a project and you only get 2 bids, you can't open, so you have to re-advertise.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may I respond to Mr. Keefe's question, please, for further clarification?
Absolutely.
If I may. Mr. Keefe, may I add some clarification? In our conversations today with USDA, I think they were very certain that they could increase the loan amount to us. What I urged them to do was increase the grant amount, and they're going to do everything they possibly can to increase the grant amount. But I think we are assured today that we're going to get some additional grant amount. I can't tell you how much, but we will be getting some additional funds from the loan perspective to cover the additional cost overruns. However, Jeffery is going to work with the engineer for the project to try to reduce some of these issues and not fund the full $1.5 million.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Counsel.
I want to make sure that I understand the motion that we need to make. It's clear that we can't solve this tonight. And I want to make sure what the motion needs to be between the manager and the attorney or whatever.
Yes, ma'am. I can certainly,
Can you
I sure can.
fix me a motion, please?
I sure can. What we're asking you to do this evening, that was provided for information. What we want to do is ask you to approve the resolution that authorizes the finance director to file an application for approval of revenue bonds to the local government commission. That's the main thing that we need to do this evening. That is the memorandum that was prepared by our finance director, Vicki Evans.
Okay, the resolution is located on pages 276 through 278.
That's my motion.
Okay, there's nothing that's going to change as a result of the information we've got and as far as the resolution is concerned. So we've got a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Okay, Larry, second motion, Commissioner Lancaster. Any further discussion?
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Does that obligate us in terms, we're not asking them to, when we do the bond allocation, I guess, it's not asking them any kind of amount or anything, it's just the authorization to be able to,
File an application, and it has to be filed at least 30 days in advance. We can always withdraw or rescind our application to the local government commission.
Other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Voting in favor, Commissioners Keefe, Edge, Adams, Chairman Faircloth, Commissioners Council, Lancaster, and Evans. It is unanimous.
And then, Mr. Chairman, on this same item, we would like to continue to work with USDA and then come back to the board and communicate a date to the board that we need to have a meeting in July.
Okay. Meeting in July.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This time I'll recess the Overhills Water and Sewer District Governing Board, and I'll reconvene the regular County Board of Commissioners meeting. Item 8 is a closed session for economic development matters pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, parentheses A, parentheses 4.
Second the motion.
Moved and seconded. I guess I made the motion. Seconded, okay. Discussion, all in favor going in closed session for purpose of.
Unanimous.
Okay, I made the motion.
Unanimous.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you, board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Board.
Jeanette,